Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We're going old-timey Hollywood creep today, which I'm extremely excited about, and I didn't even realize this until we were talking off the air. We've got a couple of mysteries in here as well, which makes it super exciting.
I'm really enjoying our creepy mysteries.
Me too. I love them too. I think on the top of the show, we should say to everyone, if this is your first time listening to What a Creep, we use salty language. So if you don't like curse words, you're all going to just back out now. Let's part as friends. Go on with your lives. We will be down for the cursing here.
Yeah, maybe the show isn't for you, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And if you like salty language, then
welcome.
Fucking join us.
You can find us on social media. We have a private Facebook group. That's where we're the most interactive. You have to ask to join What a Creep podcast group. If you don't look like a creep, we will definitely let you in. We also have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Send us your comments and suggestions there. Also, you can request to get stickers. People have been emailing us asking for stickers, and of course we will send stickers to you wherever you are.
They're so cute.
They're adorable. Everybody drink.
Everybody drink.
We're on Twitter at CreepPie because somebody had What a Creep for 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
We're also on Instagram, What a Creep Podcast. And we do have a Patreon page if you're interested in supporting the show that way. You go to patreon.com, look for What a Creep Podcast. And I'd like to say hello to Nicole and Betty for joining since the last episode. Hello, ladies.
Aw, welcome.
We post bonus episodes there.
And the bonus ones are really fun. They're loosey-goosey. We have a cocktail or two or three, and we really spill the tea. They're super fun.
They're super duper fun. And I also want to say thank you to Vlondy. She wrote us a 5-star review in iTunes, which is really rad. Thank you so much. And Sonia, do you want to tell them about our website?
Yes, go to whatacreeppodcast.com and you can find everything you ever wanted to know about our show, but were afraid to ask. And that includes a link to our merch shop. And you can also go on threadless.com and type in What a Creep Podcast. And we have like shirts and journals and tote bags with our old logo with the pink hair and the new logo with the orange hair. And I've been pondering some other designs that I might upload in there as well.
Oh, wow.
And we can vouch for the shirts. They are super soft and awesome.
They are super comfortable. So are our masks. And I use the tote bag all the time. So if you're interested, go there. If you're not interested, that's fine. Just, let's just hang out. Let's just talk about some creeps. All right?
Yeah.
So Sonia, are you ready?
I'm so ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Today's creep, this episode was inspired by the 2016 Coen Brothers movie Hail Caesar. It stars George Clooney, Scarlett Johansson, Tilda Swinton, and Josh Brolin playing a very fictionalized version of longtime MGM enforcer Eddie Mannix. Do you know who Eddie Mannix is? Was.
Only.
He's no longer with us.
Only from the movie that you're going to talk about in a little bit called Hollywoodland.
Yes.
That's really all I knew about him until you brought him up.
Okay. The film presents him as a lovable rogue and family man who had the tough job of keeping his stars in check. He was known as the Fixer, and in reality, there was little to love about the man. He was a ruthless thug. He would beat up anyone who caused him a problem. He made some folks disappear altogether. And he had plenty of help and enablers, including Richard Strickling, who was the MGM publicity director, and Louis B. Mayer, who had more stars than there are in the heavens.
And we did an episode about him.
Yes, we did. He's a past creep. So the president of MGM, past creep. Go check that out. Today we are sticking to Mannix's assholery with some of the creepiest moments in his career. Some of them are the stuff of Hollywood legend. I should give you the trigger warnings right now. Domestic violence, sexual assault, and murder. Murder. And we have, for our sources, of course, Wikipedia, but we also have Slate, Vice, the You Must Remember This podcast by Karina Longworth, one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about MGM and the history of them. It's like a 10-episode arc. It's really amazing. The website History by Day, the book The Fixers by E.J. Fleming, and also a page I love called Showbiz Cheat Sheet. It's really fun to check out.
Mm-hmm. I've come across that one before, too.
It's helped us in the past. Quick background on Eddie Mannix. His full name was Joseph Edgar Allen John Mannix.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. He was born in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and he took the name Eddie as a kid and spent his adult years at Palisades Park, which is down by the Jersey Shore. He oversaw motion picture exhibitions. He was born in 1891, by the way. He did such a good job. It was motion pictures in the teens. They just started to take off in America, and they were this is the silent film era. And some people didn't think like people would go into a theater, turn off the lights and watch a thing on a screen. There were people like, that's ridiculous. Why don't you just see a live performance? They had no idea how much we all love to be hypnotized and see a thing on a screen. So it becomes this multi-million-dollar industry very quickly. So there are some ne'er-do-wells that are in there in the mix of the creatives trying to get as much money and as much product out there as they can. And Eddie Mannix was really good about organizing people. And I mean, like by cracking his knuckles and scaring the crap out of them. But he moves to LA and he's pretty soon working for Louis B. Mayer, who has more stars than there are in heaven. I'm going to stop that.
Is that his official title?
I think it should be.
I agree.
When Eddie Mannix when he worked for MGM, he had a sign on his desk and that sign said, "The only star here is Leo the Lion." So this is somebody telling famous people, shut the fuck up. I own you. Movies were making so much money for Los Angeles that movie studios basically owned the police and district attorney's office. Mannix was friends with the mob on both coasts, and for the most part was able to keep his talent in check for most of his time in charge. And this is between 1924 and 1962. That's a long time to have a job.
Yeah.
He was considered a tyrant and rightfully scared the hell out of people. There's always, of course, people who loved him. I mean, no one's an asshole all the freaking time. Eddie Mannix, though married, he had several affairs on his first wife, Bernice Fitzmaurice. He mainly slept with actresses, studio staff, and sex workers. He tried to avoid sleeping with anyone really famous, as it made him be stuck out for ridicule. You know, they take pictures of him and show him in the press and stuff like that.
I like that he tried to avoid it. Like,
it's hard.
So hard not to sleep with famous people.
They just throw themselves at me. What can I do? If one of MGM's stars got caught, let's say drunk driving, Clark Gable, Mannix would get them out of jail and pay off any victims and or their families to avoid publicity. Drugs were a huge issue. On the one hand, Strickling wanted his stars to take speed and amphetamines to keep slim and work 15 hours a day. But marijuana, cocaine, and heroin were running their lives, as they do now.
Mm-hmm. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. People like to get high. Let's just be clear. If they did not clean up on their own, Eddie would send a gangster from the East Coast to follow them until they were scared off the junk. Really great guy. Mm-hmm. Movie stars of the 20s and 30s especially loved sex and the liberation they felt in Hollywood. This did not make Mayer, Strickling, or Mannix happy, so they would routinely break up relationships, push for abortions, or convenient adoptions. Loretta Young.
Yeah, we talked about that in our Clark Gable episode, everybody. Go back and listen.
And they were very good about finding actors' early porn work, Joan Crawford. And they arranged marriages for gay and bisexual people who were being gossiped about in the tabloids. He helped create a sanctuary for sex in the Lee Francis apartments that were on Sunset Boulevard. And for $1,000 a week, and that's a shitload of money back then, they had high-class call girls and boys to satisfy their needs. But still, these folks had needs and insecurities that could not be fixed with quick sex. And Eddie was a part of quite a few legendary Hollywood murders and mayhem. If he did not have a hand in it, he knew how to scare off witnesses and make a problem go away. While Eddie's wife was a nice Irish Catholic woman who did not believe in divorce, she turned a blind eye to all of his cheating, and they never had kids. But she also went to church every day, and she figured that was part of her penance for the marriage. Eddie did fall in love in the mid-20s to a former Ziegfeld girl named Marian Robertson, who went by the stage name Bubbles Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't she sound fun?
Yeah, I'm like, that's a name.
I want to party with a Bubbles. Bubbles was part of some violent relationships in her past when she met Mannix. Now under the stage name Mary Nolan, she got a few parts in MGM productions, and they were together for several years. The drawback was Eddie would beat her so severely sometimes that the makeup people had a very hard time covering up her bruises, and she couldn't wear sleeveless outfits.
Oh my God.
When Mary tried to confront his wife, Bernice, about the affair so that he could marry her, Mannix beat her so severely she wound up in the hospital for weeks. She had to have over 15 surgeries.
Jesus.
From those injuries, yeah. And her career was ruined. She tried suing Mannix in 1935, but Strickling fed to the press that she was an adulteress who changed her name several times and was therefore not trustworthy. When that didn't work, Mannix had members of the LAP tell her that if she did not drop the suit, she was going to be arrested for drugs and put away. Mary soon left town, and she died of a drug overdose in 1948 at the age of 48.
Jesus, that guy is a real piece of shit.
He's a piece of work. Another big event for him in 1935, Freddie Mannix, was the death of Thelma Todd. She was a blonde beauty who was featured in a bunch of Marx Brothers movies. As well, she was in the first adaptation of The Maltese Falcon. In 1934, she opened a cafe off of the Pacific Coast Highway. Thelma Todd and Eddie Mannix were friends. She was once married to one of his mobster friends. His name was Pasquale Di Coco.
Wow.
It's a hell of a name. And he worked for Lucky Luciano, who was played by Vincent Piazza on Boardwalk Empire and by Christian Slater in the 1991 movie Mobsters.
That needs to go on the list. Writing it down. Mobsters.
Lucky Luciano is considered the father of organized crime. I guess. Okay. He was taking over the drug business in Hollywood and had a reputation so scary that other mobsters in LA called him Charlie Lucifer. Thelma eloped with DeCoco. Thelma had a bad picker. Anyway, he beat her up so badly on their honeymoon that she left him quickly. She then hooked up with Lucky Luciano, and they were on and off for a while. It was very volatile. She lived in a friend's apartment that was a mansion over a garage. And she had to go up these 300 steps to get to her home. So she would park in the garage. It's in the canyon. That's where she lived. And then she would
300 steps.
300 steps. Can you fucking imagine?
No.
No, thank you.
You have to basically get on a fucking Stairmaster to get to your place. Hard pass.
Yeah. She had, in 1934, she bought a restaurant, a cafe. It was kind of one of those hop-in places in California. So she was smart. She was a really smart person. She had like money coming from that, plus the acting, plus she was dating mobsters. So she had a very exciting, colorful life, let's just say.
Yeah.
On December 16th, 1935, her maid found Thelma Todd wedged inside her car in the garage under the steering wheel. There was blood splattered everywhere. She was bruised. Both her nose and ribs were broken, and there were signs of rigor mortis.
Oh my God, that sounds Oh,
It sounds
ew.
painful. Her death was ruled accidental carbon monoxide poisoning. 'Cause
What?
when you-
That-
I know.
Jesus
I
Christ.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah, everyone knows that, when you do that, you somehow like
beat the
break
shit out of
bones.
yourself.
Yeah. What the fuck?
It's so stupid. Mannix knew everybody involved, and her mother tried to get investigations going, but she would hire someone, and then that person would get scared. They like somebody would shake them down, and they would say, "Sorry, I can't take this on." Now, this is a mystery because they've never solved. They said it was just accidental carbon monoxide poisoning. It was murder, but who murdered her? Did Lucky Luciano put a hit on her because he wanted to take over her restaurant and make it into a casino? Or did she just know too much about the bribes he was taking in his Hollywood deals and the drug business? Or was it her friend Roland West? He was a director and he was in a relationship for her and he was madly in love with her, but she was like, nah, not into you. He was also staying at her house at the time. So I don't know who it is or what happened, but I think this is kind of interesting. When she died, she was filming it with director Hal Roach. Her replacement was actress Lyda Roberti. And 3 years later, Lyda was on another film set when she bent over to tie her shoes. She immediately keeled over and died. She had a heart attack at 33.
What?
People died young back then, and
Jeez.
it could happen out of fucking nowhere. I know. Hollywood's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so here's another one, and we've talked a bit about this before with Louis B. Mayer, but I think it should be brought up again. In 1937, there was a scandal, and Mannix had his hands all over it. Louis B. Mayer had a sales conference at MGM, and he invited 300 salesmen, all men, to the MGM lot. He put them on a train and put them cross country and had them drinking the whole time. And when they got to MGM, they had celebrity lunches. They took them on a tour of the sets. And there was just drinking. And the final night of this whole thing, they had a show called the Wild West Show, full of women and girls in Western gear. And it was called a stag affair, which always should make women run to the hills. Like nothing good comes out of a stag thing.
Yeah, seriously. Fucking run.
None of these women were sex workers, but not that it matters, but that just they didn't know what they were getting into. And they thought they were going to be extras in an MGM production. That's what they were told. One of them was 20-year-old Patricia Douglas, who was a native of LA. And the first bummer for her was she found out they were only going to be paid $7.50 for the day.
As in $7.50.
$7.50. They're cheap assholes too.
Yep.
And it would require them, they had to drink and dance with these total losers. One of them was a man named David Ross. He was from Chicago. He set his sights on Patricia and started following around. She tried hiding in the ladies' room and she waited a while and then she got out. He grabbed her. He and a friend held her down, poured liquor down her throat. When she tried to make herself throw up, he grabbed her again and started assaulting her. She was able to get away. She looked for a security guard and they called an ambulance. When she got to the hospital, the Culver City PD was already there. And they said, yeah, we don't see any signs of intercourse here. There's nothing traumatic going on here.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, bullshit. I was raped
Right.
by this asshole. And she tried to get justice. She went to the DA. She went to the papers. She did everything right. But in the end, Mannix had scared everybody away. They painted her in the press as a good time girl. She was a virgin, by the way. And it's terrible. She eventually moved to Vegas and she did not discuss the Wild Wild West show until 2003 when Vanity Fair did a profile on it. I know. So around this time, after the death of Mary Nolan, Eddie had a lot of flings with dames, as he called them.
Dames, broads, and skirts.
Dames. But one in particular stole his heart. Her name was Toni Lanier, and she was a pistol. She could drink any man under the table. She was very good looking, and she was a semi-good actress. And people just loved to be around her. She was a good time. They went everywhere together, and the relationship was basically accepted by Hollywood. His wife moved to Palm Springs, and then Tony moved in with him. And for years, they were really happy. In 1938, Mannix's wife, Bernice, asked him for a divorce.
Oh, she changed her mind.
She changed her mind and told him if he did not grant her and pay her he didn't grant it and pay her for what she wanted. And she wanted some property. She wanted really high alimony. She said, if you don't give this to me, I'm going to go to the press about all of your abuse and your infidelity. Eddie was not about to pay her a penny, though she deserved it.
Yes.
And their negotiations were becoming contentious. But as luck for Eddie would have it, his wife, Bernice, was driving home from Palm Springs Casino, and the owner of the casino was driving her home when he lost control of the car and it crashed. It left him paralyzed and Bernice dead.
What a coincidence.
Funny thing, there were 2 sets of tire marks, which would indicate that they were being chased off the road. But guess what? There was no investigation of this accident.
Weird.
So, yeah. So Tony became his common law wife. A lot of people think they got married. They didn't get married officially, or there's no record of it anywhere. So one of Eddie's biggest issues with actors was alcoholism. Without the addiction and rehab culture that we have now, those that tried to quit would just go cold turkey for a film production and then would fall off the wagon and go back to drinking. It was horrible. That having an addiction doesn't make you a creep. We've talked about this a lot. Addiction is a hardcore thing to deal with mentally, physically. It's hard on your family. It's hard on your relationships. We have a lot of empathy for that.
Yes.
We're just saying that, 100 years ago, people didn't think about AA or going to a spa or something. So anyway, Mannix spent many hours at the LA drunk tank sneaking people out before the press would get wind of their arrest. One of the worst was actor Spencer Tracy, who was married and a philanderer with a terrible temper when drunk. He might very well be a future creep episode. One big thing that he and Louis B. Mayer, both stars in the arm of heaven, and Richard Strickling, one big thing they kept from the press was Spencer Tracy and his grooming of Judy Garland.
Oh, I don't know this.
It started when she was 14 and he was 37.
Gross.
It's so gross. And they tried to break it up. Judy had a lot of issues. And he was a pig. Let's be clear. Yeah. Anyway. But
Hollywood has a funny thing about Spencer Tracy. They knew he was married and that his relationship with Katharine Hepburn was like pretty open. But people treated as like, I don't know, like they were super in love and he didn't want to leave his wife. And like, I don't know, I felt like he got like a free pass, but he did a lot of fucked up shit.
He definitely did. They kept a lot out of the press. He would get so bad. He was always in the drunk tank. He was in multiple car accidents. They got him out of a lot of jams. It was just what happened at the time. And he was making money for them at the time. So it wasn't a big deal. When he stopped making money, all of a sudden people stopped caring about him.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And that's when Katharine Hepburn kind of really comes in and swoops in. Yeah, their relationship is fascinating. Strickling and Mannix also abused Judy Garland by putting her on drugs as a teenager to stay slim for The Wizard of Oz. And they hired an assistant for her who reported back to them everything she ate and how much she exercised while she was doing this exhausting film production. Judy was furious when she found out because it's like finding out your best friend.
Yeah, poor woman.
Tragic. I know.
She didn't have a fucking chance.
She seriously did not. It's so heartbreaking. And they all just took advantage of her. And she's so talented and just And everything I heard is like she sounds like she was a really nice person. Like she really tried to. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Mannix continues his reign of terror for the next 20 years, but eventually his constant smoking is causing health issues and he needs to stay home and rest. And we're going back to Tony now. Tony is not about resting. She doesn't give a shit about your emphysema. So she starts going out and he realizes I probably only have a few years left. So he just kind of starts letting her, they had an open relationship towards the end. And this is when everything changes here. Tony has a new lover. She is dating the first Superman, George Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
George Reeves was so handsome, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very sexy. They meet in 1951, and she's about 10 years older than him. He was smitten right away. Once again, she's gorgeous. She's funny. She had a ton of energy, and she called him the boy, and she spoiled him. She paid for everything, including a house in Benedict Canyon. Mannix was fine with this, and he actually thought Reeves was a good influence on her. Reeves had a very conflicted relationship being Superman. He loved the money. Being a hero to kids was really fun for him. It was an important responsibility, but the hours were so long. That costume he wore was made of wool. It made him sweat 10 pounds each show.
Damn.
And that's not good for you. That's terrible on your heart. It wasn't exactly cool for an actor to be on TV back then. And the thought, there was the thought that TV was a vast wasteland, and playing a superhero was considered really, really cheesy. He wanted to be a real actor.
Believe it or not, everybody, there was a time when TV and movie, like now that line is so blurred.
Yeah.
That was not the case. TV was less than, and damn, superheroes were less than that.
We're
This
so
is before
cheesy.
Yeah, it's before Marvel.
Yeah.
Like everything is superhero now, but yeah, this was not a thing back then.
Having kids as your main audience was not considered cool.
Mm-mm.
Right. I mean, now we realize it's a shitload of money and you got fans for life, but if you do it right.
That's right.
Tony was so loyal, she stayed with them on the set every single day. And when they went on vacation, they often had Eddie join them. They were like a little trio.
Mm-hmm.
So a few years goes by and George starts to get tired of Tony. He's tired of going out. He wants to stay home more. She's getting older. He's a famous TV star. So he dumps her. And he starts dating this young socialite named Lenore Lemon. And Lenore, they had this 2-week fling in New York City, and then she comes to California and she moves in with him in the home that Tony is paying for.
Oh, shit.
So Tony did what a lot of desperate people do when they're scorned. She turned into a stalker. She called
Oh,
him,
boy.
She called him dozens of times a day. She sent him flowers. She parked her car outside their home for hours. She begged Eddie Mannix to try to get him back for her. She said, I need the boy. Help me get back my boy. She really is desperate. And George just was adamant. Like in his mind, it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the car accident started happening to him. Similar in nature to Bernice, George was sideswiped, 3 times before he died.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. One time he had his dog stolen from his car. That was the thing that really bummed me out. And then one time he was driving down Benedict Canyon. He's trying to use the brakes and the brakes wouldn't work. And he wound up crashing into a light pole and he takes it to a station. He lived. He had some scratches and bruises. He lived. Turns out there was no brake fluid in the car.
Damn.
This is 1959 and George is really getting annoyed. He's annoyed with all these car crashes that keep happening to him. It's just getting on his nerves.
What a this is so annoying. People keep trying to kill me. This sucks.
At the same time, Lenore didn't exactly turn out to be a very tranquil person. She liked to go out and party. She liked to go out, stay out late at night and talk about how her boyfriend was Superman and they were engaged. They're going to get married. And then she loved to bring people home to drink until late into the night. George is getting older, playing Superman with that stupid outfit for all those years. It was wearing him out. And one night, in June, he and Lenore, they had some friends over. And then he went up to take a nap. And she's like, I'll leave him alone. He just needs to sleep it off. And next thing you know, the guests, all of them hear gunshots. And they go to his bedroom, and George is on the floor naked and dead from a gunshot wound to the head. The police and the DA keep trying to say that the story was that George died by suicide, but his mother hired an attorney to find the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, hiring attorneys to get help, and then the attorneys wind up quitting because they're being shaken down by the mob and other people telling them dangerous people are involved. You don't want to be involved with this. Anyway, did Mannix kill him for revenge for Tony, who inherited everything from him when he died? Or did she call him to cover up a murder that she set up? Did she shoot him? Who shot him? Because it turns out there were other bullets in the house, and it wasn't suicide. It was for sure not suicide.
No.
But it's still a big debate these days. Like, what happened and what was Mannix's role in that? Anyway, let me just end this by saying Eddie lived for just a few more years after that. He died of emphysema in 1963 at the age of 72. Lenore Lemon and Tony both lived to their 60s. Neither ever got married or had kids. Louis B. Mayer, more stars in the heavens. He's deader than a doornail, too. And that is our creep this week, Eddie Mannix.
Good job, Margot. What a fucking creep.
He's so bad.
He
was
such
a part of so many things, too.
Yeah.
That's just the stuff we know.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
He paid off so many politicians, newspaper people, so much.
Yeah.
So when you watch Hail Caesar and it's like Josh Brolin being like, hey, how you doing, sir? Let's go do a movie. Okay. It's such bullshit. Yeah.
You did a really good job.
Thank you. I'm losing my voice.
Do you want to hear about before you lose your voice, do you want to hear about someone who's not a creep?
Yes, please.
Okay. The movie Hollywoodland is the story of, it's kind of telling that mystery about what happened to George Reeves. And in the movie, Eddie Mannix is played by actor Bob Hoskins. And I thought maybe he would make a good, not a creep. He was born October 26, 1942 in Bury St. Edmunds.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. He was an only child. His father was a bookkeeper. His mother was a cook at a nursery school. He dropped out of school at 15 and he worked a ton of different jobs. So he worked as a porter, a truck driver, a window cleaner. He took accounting, but he dropped out. In 1967, he actually did some volunteering in Israel, like packing food and helping like people build houses and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, this is crazy. He also herded camels in Syria.
Isn't that we all? That's my summer job.
It's like such a random thing. So in 1968, he was in London and he just went with a friend on an acting audition. And while he was there, they just assumed that he was there to read for the part and they offered him the lead. So he like kind of just fell into acting.
Wow.
And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you probably remember him most from Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's the lead in that. I just watched that movie a couple months ago. I think, didn't you watch it too?
Yeah.
For Book versus Movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's so fucking good in that movie.
He is.
He's so good. And it's such a good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's really, really good. He was nominated for an Oscar in 1986 for Mona Lisa. Did you ever see that one?
Good movie.
Yeah. Really good movie. He also did like Hook and Nixon. And there's this famous story about how he was like the second choice to play Al Capone in The Untouchables.
De Niro?
Robert De Niro and Kevin Costner. It's directed by Brian De Palma. And they were worried that De Niro was going to turn it down. So they kind of lined up Bob Hoskins to do it. And then De Niro ended up taking it. So Brian De Palma sent him a check for $20,000. And then Bob Hoskins told him, if you ever got any other films you don't want me to be in, give me a call. Which I thought was really, really funny. I mean, the truth is he's described as a very kind man who wanted nothing more than to be with his family. That's what I read over and over. He was married twice. The first wife was a woman who was a teacher named Jane Livesley, and they had 2 children together, Alex and Sarah. And when they split, he got really, really depressed and he started drinking and he was having a lot of problems. And then he met his second wife, who's also a teacher, and her name was Linda Banwell. And she kind of cleaned up his act and got him like not to drink so much. And they had 2 more kids, Rosa and Jack. And he would say, like, I have a really good wife. And
Aww.
I love this quote where he says, we've been married for a long time. And one of the things about sort of doing this business is you've got to have a life apart from this business. And if you've got a really happy marriage, that's most of your problems are gone, which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah.
He retired from acting in 2012 because he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which is awful. And then he died in 2014 of pneumonia in London, and he was 71.
Oh man,
which is really sad. But here's why I really picked him, because before he passed away, he shared these like 11 life lessons with his kids, with his daughter, one of his daughters in particular. And this is what he shared. These are his 11 things you're supposed to do. Laugh, be yourself, be flamboyant, don't worry about other people's opinions, get angry, whatever you do, always give it a go, be generous and kind because you can't take it with you, appreciate beauty, take pictures and make memories, don't take yourself too seriously, never, ever, ever, ever give up, and love with all your heart.
Oh my God.
And I think those are really great life lessons. And he just seemed like a really cool dude. And he is one of those actors, and we talk about this a lot on Dorking Out, that when you see a movie, even something shitty like Super Mario Brothers, when you see his name in it, you're like, at least Bob Hoskins is in this. At least you're gonna see something good, even if it's bad.
Right.
Even if it's Hook, which I don't like.
No, but he's good in it.
But he's good in it. He's one of those people who's always really good. And he's really good in Hollywoodland. And if y'all haven't seen it, it's a really good movie. I think Ben Affleck got most of the love for that movie, but it's got a really good cast. It's a great movie.
It's Diane Lane who plays Tony.
Yeah.
And then Robin Tunney plays Lenore. Yeah, it's a really good movie. And Ben Affleck's really good in it.
He is really good in it. I think it's kind of one of those first movies he did where people are like, oh yeah, Ben Affleck can actually act.
Yeah. I think it was after Bennifer the first time.
Yeah.
I think
the first time. Oh my gosh.
Maybe he's going to do another one like it. Yeah. Did I tell you I met Bob Hoskins?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know this. Tell me.
Okay. So I was taking Bob Ballard, another Bob, Robert Ballard, excuse me, but he's the man that worked he's been in the Navy forever. He's the one that discovered the Titanic, and he's in all the documentaries about the Titanic, and he's found a lot of shipwrecks in his career. He made a book for National Geographic, and it's about a very famous Navy sinking and a ship that was found at Battle for Midway. And he had pictures of it, and they made these gorgeous books. And I took him around for interviews that day, and we actually dropped by Fox Studios, and they used to have just regular interviews with people. It wasn't all like tinfoil hats. And used to just like that was the morning and that was the evening, but during the day they just had news and then interview segments. So I take him there, and in the green room there sits Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins starts looking through the book, and he goes, oh, this is fascinating. I find World War II so interesting, and being really nice. And I said, Mr. Hoskins, would you like a copy of the book? You can have it. He goes, oh, but please have the author sign it for me before he goes. And I said, absolutely. And he did. And he was so sweet. And he just looked like a very nice, normal person. And Bob Ballard's a great person too, but he had one weird thing. He was very fit man. And every day he said, poke me in the stomach. And I would poke him in the stomach, and it was hard as a rock. Not below that, his stomach. But I think he was like in his 60s. He was like really proud of it, which if I had a hard stomach like that, I probably would do. And poke me.
Valid point.
Anyway,
I
so
might
that's
do
my
the same.
Bob Hoskins story and my Bob Ballard story.
I am so glad to hear that he was nice to you. I would have been like, oh, well, that was a disappointing. not a
No, he
creep.
was incredibly lovely. He's just one of those
Yeah.
people like, oh, I recognize that person. They're acting normal like me. How cool.
Yeah. And everything I read, everyone he worked with, they were just like, oh, he was like such a kind man. He was really fun. His advice, I think he really liked being himself. He liked to laugh and make people laugh. And he didn't take himself too seriously. And he played a lot of fucked up, heavy people. And so it's kind of cool to know that he wasn't all like method actor.
No, he's a
where
softie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a softie.
Which I like.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's our show this week, you guys. And if you like the sound of our voices, and why the hell wouldn't you at this
I know.
point, we co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we mainly dork out about movies. And Sonia, what are we covering next?
We are going to be talking about the documentary Truth or Dare.
Woo!
And it is celebrating its 30th anniversary. And I just rewatched it the other night. I love that music so much. I like Madonna music. So I think it's going to be a really fun discussion.
That's going to be coming up soon. Be sure to subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode of this show. Follow us on all the things, social media-wise, or send us an email, whataCreeppodcast@gmail.com. We do love it when you're giving us suggestions. When you use the Annie Potts gifts from Ghostbusters, we got one. Or just pick anyone that you want.
Yeah.
And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, where I'm there to ruin it for the kids. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me on social media at Brooklyn Fitchick. That's mostly for Twitter and Instagram. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com. And we will be back next week with a new episode. So in the meantime, wash your hands. Still maintain some social distancing. I know they say you don't need a mask, but
you should still wear your masks.
Yeah.
Be safe, everybody.
Just be safe wherever you are. Make good choices. And don't be a creep.
Creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.